Hiya! Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to take a quick question from Suzie Jay, who wanted to ask me a question about whether I would ever want my daughter to know about Juliette, and a couple of follow-up questions about at what age and how we might want to tell her, and also what does my wife think about my daughter knowing about us. So I wanted to address this question because it really is a very personal question, and it's a difficult one to answer because it's one of those things that is very hard to gauge when you're talking about the sort of state of mind of someone who is still developing emotionally. So my daughter is fairly young, she's under 10 years old, and therefore she's in a situation where, as much as I might want to tell her about our situation at the moment, we don't feel that she's quite ready yet. To go back to the original question, do I want her to know? Then absolutely yes, I do want to tell her. One of the things that we're doing, or I'm certainly trying to do quite carefully in her upbringing, is to make sure that she is open to ideas, open to concepts and thoughts about the world, of being open to different lifestyles, the way people live their lives that are sometimes quite differently to the way you might live your own life. And by being open to different cultures, different outlooks on life, hopefully that's something that will help to prepare her for what might be quite a difficult revelation in regard to someone she's grown up thinking about in a very, very clearly defined and singular way. So absolutely I do want to tell her. We've been leaning more towards giving her that information in secondary school. So that would be once she's past sort of 11 years old, that kind of age, out of primary school and into secondary education. And I think that that's the kind of decision we've made for now, and that gives us another few years in which to see how things go, and there's no pressure to do anything in the immediate term or in the short term. So I don't feel like I have to tell her. I don't feel any pressure that she must know right now and that somehow she doesn't understand the real me. I am who I am to her, and that is all that really matters for now. So definitely do want her to know. Having said that, we, as I said, want to make sure that she is in a, let's say, a very stable emotional place when she gets this information. From how we're sort of bringing her up so far, I haven't had any doubts about how she would receive that information, so I'm sort of quite reasonably confident that she would receive the information fairly well. Having said that, you never know what might happen as people grow up and as they mature and as they develop emotionally, so we'll have to play things by ear and be a little bit fluid about things. Now, with regard to my wife, she, in general, if she could click her fingers and have things be different, I think she would do that. I have to say that if I could change who I was, I wouldn't. I'm very happy being me. I think for my wife, I think she understands that this is something my daughter does have to know about. But I think between the two of us, I would probably tell my daughter sooner, she would tell my daughter later. And I think that's the easiest way of putting it. Between the two of us, we are trying to reach a middle ground of agreeing on a reasonable age and maturity for her to know. Before it becomes so obvious that she guesses, I think that's kind of it. I'd like to be ahead of the curve on this one to be able to share that information with her proactively, rather than it being something that she guesses or in some way has worked out. And I think, yes, between the two of us, I would push for earlier, my wife would push for later. Having said that, we've discussed it, we have had the conversation, we do understand the need to be able to communicate this with her. Like I said, so far, there's nothing yet in her upbringing or personality that would give me an suspicion that things might not go well. So with that in mind, it's fingers crossed, keep doing what we're doing and hope for the best for the future. That's really all we can do on the subject. Yeah, so that's really it from that perspective. We're going to do what we can. For me, this is a very interesting question because it's one that we have put a lot of thought into. So I appreciate getting this question from you, Suzie. I know it may be something that affects you directly. I know it will affect obviously a lot of people. I only have one child, so I've only got one child to disappoint or delight, whichever way you look at it. If you've got more than one child, then you're going to have to deal with more than one reaction. I think in my sense, having one child, it means at least I've only got one, let's say, reaction to work, or to worry about, or to work towards. And that is at least some comfort for me. Anyway, I hope that was a good answer to your question. It's a very, like I said, very, very interesting topic, and one that I'm happy to talk about to a degree. But there are obviously plenty of other things that, in relation to children, stuff that you wouldn't discuss. But it's something we've done a lot of thinking about. I'm ready to tell her now. That's how much I can say. I would be happy to tell her now. But there doesn't seem to be any harm in waiting. And so with no rush, I think that's what we're going to do for now. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Suzie. Thank you very much for asking that question. Really, really appreciate it. If there are any other questions for me, if anyone wants to ask me anything in relation to Juliette, something I do, anything about, like I said, going out, dress habits, questions how I deal with certain things, again, look forward to hearing those questions, and I want to get back into the swing of things in January, probably trying to answer a question a week if I can manage that. So thank you for that one, Suzie. Really, really appreciate it. If anyone wants to leave any messages, please let me know in the comments down below. Look forward to having perhaps a discussion with some of you on this subject, if it's something that has affected you personally, or something perhaps you're worried about having to address in your own future. Look forward to talking to you all again there. As ever, you can email me at julietteisnoir@gmail.com. I'll put the link into the description down below. So again, feel free to email me there. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye. Bye.